What if I told you that the life you're waiting for isn't coming later? It's already here, quietly passing you by while you're busy stressing about tomorrow or regretting yesterday. The truth is simple but powerful. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. So start living it now. Life has a strange way of tricking the human mind into believing that real living begins somewhere in the future. We often tell ourselves that once we reach a certain milestone, graduation, success, financial stability, recognition, or emotional security, then we will finally start living fully. But this belief is one of the greatest illusions we carry. The truth is that life is not waiting at the finish line. It is unfolding in every second you are breathing, whether you are ready for it or not. Most people live as if they are in a constant waiting room. They are waiting for better timing, better opportunities, better circumstances, or a better version of themselves. In that waiting, they postpone joy, delay dreams, and suppress their desire to truly experience the present moment. But the irony is that while they are waiting for life to begin, life is already passing them by unnoticed. The present moment, which is the only real moment that exists, gets sacrificed for an imagined future that is never guaranteed. If you observe closely, you will realize that the future is only a mental projection. It does not exist in physical form. Yesterday is gone and cannot be reclaimed, and tomorrow is uncertain and has not yet arrived. What remains constant is now, yet people often ignore this powerful truth. They invest their emotions in a time that is not real, while neglecting the only time that is real. This disconnect creates a quiet dissatisfaction, a feeling that something is missing, even when everything appears fine on the surface. There is a subtle danger in believing that life will become meaningful later. This mindset creates delay in action and delay in appreciation. People stop noticing the beauty in ordinary moments because they assume something greater is coming. A simple conversation becomes less valuable. A peaceful morning feels unimportant. Even personal achievements lose their meaning because the mind keeps moving the goalposts further ahead. This constant postponement drains life of its natural richness. When you start understanding that life is not waiting in some distant future, your awareness begins to shift. You realize that every ordinary moment carries extraordinary potential. The act of waking up, the sound of laughter, the warmth of sunlight, or even a quiet moment of reflection all become meaningful. These are not interruptions in life. They are life itself. The problem is not the absence of beauty, but the absence of attention. Living in the present does not mean ignoring goals or abandoning ambition. It means refusing to delay your experience of life until those goals are achieved. It means recognizing that every step toward your future is also part of your present reality. When you stop separating life into now and later, you begin to see that fulfillment is not at the destination. It is in the journey itself. The moment you fully accept that life is happening right now, not later, you stop chasing existence and start actually living it. Happiness is often misunderstood as something that arrives when conditions finally align in our favor. People imagine it as a distant place they will reach after solving every problem, achieving every goal, or fixing every flaw in their lives. This mindset turns happiness into a destination, something to be earned at the end of struggle. But life rarely offers a final end where everything becomes perfect. If happiness depends on perfection, it will always remain out of reach. The truth is that happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens within you. It is not controlled entirely by external circumstances, but by the way you interpret and respond to those circumstances. Two people can experience the same situation and walk away with completely different emotional outcomes. One may see disappointment, while the other finds growth. The difference is not in the situation, but in the decision of perception. When you treat happiness as a destination, you begin to delay it. You tell yourself that you will be happy when life becomes easier, when money becomes stable, when relationships become perfect, or when stress disappears. but life is not designed to eliminate all difficulty. Challenges will always exist in some form. If happiness depends on the absence of problems, then happiness becomes something that can never truly be achieved. A powerful shift happens when you realize that happiness is a choice made in real time. It is not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. Instead, it is about choosing how you respond even in imperfect moments. It is the ability to find meaning in struggle, gratitude in uncertainty, and calm within chaos. This does not change the situation instantly, but it changes the way the situation lives inside you. Many people mistakenly believe that choosing happiness means forcing positivity. But real happiness is deeper than surface-level positivity. It is a steady inner decision to not let external events completely control your emotional state. It is the quiet strength to say, even here, even now, I will not abandon peace. This decision does not eliminate hardship, but it reduces its power over your identity and mindset. When happiness becomes a decision rather than a destination, life becomes lighter. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start engaging with the present moment as it is. You begin to realize that joy can exist alongside struggle and peace can exist within uncertainty. In that realization, happiness is no longer something far away. It becomes something you can access, choose, and create in the very moment you are living right now. Life is often imagined in big milestones, achievements, promotions, awards, or life-changing events. Because of this, people tend to overlook the smaller moments that fill most of their days. They wait for the big moment to feel fulfilled, not realizing that life is actually built from countless small, ordinary moments that quietly shape who they are becoming. The tragedy is not that life lacks meaning, but that meaning is often ignored when it doesn't come in a dramatic form. If you look closely, the most powerful memories are rarely the grand events people expect them to be. Instead, they are simple fragments of time, a conversation with someone who truly listened, a shared laugh that came unexpectedly, a peaceful morning where nothing special happened, but everything felt right. These moments may seem insignificant while they are happening, but later they become the emotional foundation of a person's life story. The human mind has a tendency to undervalue what is familiar. Because small moments happen every day, they are often taken for granted. A warm meal, a calm walk, a kind message, or even the sound of rain can easily pass unnoticed when the mind is focused on bigger ambitions or future concerns. Yet, these are the very experiences that create a sense of connection to life. Without them, even success can feel empty. There is a silent beauty in simplicity that is easy to miss. A moment of silence after a long day carries its own depth. A smile from a stranger can shift the tone of an entire afternoon. Sitting quietly with your thoughts can bring clarity that no achievement can offer. These experiences do not demand attention, but they reward awareness. The more present you are, the more meaningful they become. When people start chasing only big moments, they often find themselves constantly waiting for vacations, waiting for celebrations, waiting for achievements that will finally make life feel worthwhile. But in doing so, they miss the continuous stream of small experiences that are already offering joy, comfort, and meaning. Life becomes something to reach instead of something to live through. Understanding the value of small moments changes the entire experience of life. It shifts attention from what will make me happy later to what is already meaningful now. This awareness does not reduce ambition or goals, but it balances them with presence. It teaches that life is not a collection of rare highlights, but a continuous flow of ordinary moments that, when noticed deeply, become extraordinary in their own quiet way. Gratitude is one of the most powerful yet underestimated forces in human life. It does not change your external circumstances instantly, but it changes how you experience those circumstances. Two people can live the same kind of day, face the same challenges, and walk through the same routines, yet one feels burdened while the other feels grounded. The difference often lies in gratitude. the ability to recognize value in what already exists instead of focusing only on what is missing. Most people condition their happiness on acquisition. They believe that once they gain something new, a better job, more money, improved relationships, or a higher status, then gratitude will naturally follow. But in reality, it often works the opposite way. Gratitude is not the result of having more. It is the reason people begin to notice what they already have. Without it, even abundance feels insufficient because the mind is always searching for what is next instead of appreciating what is now. When gratitude is absent, ordinary life starts to feel dull and repetitive. The same environment that once felt comforting begins to feel limiting. The same people who once brought start to seem ordinary. Even achievements lose their emotional weight over time. This happens not because life becomes less valuable, but because attention shifts away from appreciation. The mind becomes trained to overlook blessings simply because they are familiar. Gratitude, when practiced consciously, interrupts this cycle of dissatisfaction. It brings awareness back to the present moment and highlights what is already working, already present, already enough. A safe place to sleep, a meal on the table, a functioning body, or even the ability to think and feel. These are often overlooked, yet they form the foundation of every human experience. When you begin to notice them intentionally, your perception of life begins to soften and expand. There is a quiet strength in gratitude that does not deny challenges, but refuses to be consumed by them. It does not ignore difficulties. Instead, it places them in a broader context. Even in hard times, gratitude allows you to recognize that not everything is broken, not everything is lost, and not everything is against you. This balance helps prevent despair from becoming overwhelming and keeps perspective intact even in uncertain situations. Over time, gratitude reshapes the emotional tone of everyday life. It turns routine into appreciation and familiarity into awareness. Days that once felt ordinary begin to feel meaningful, not because they have changed externally, but because your lens has changed internally. In this way, gratitude does not add something new to life. It reveals the value that was already there, hidden beneath distraction and expectation. Fear is one of the most silent forces that controls human behavior. It rarely announces itself loudly. Instead, it works quietly in the background of thoughts, shaping decisions, delaying actions, and limiting experiences. People often believe they are making logical choices when in reality, many of those choices are influenced by fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty, or fear of not being enough. Over time, this fear does not just affect decisions. It begins to take ownership of the present moment itself. One of the most damaging effects of fear is that it pulls the mind away from the present. Instead of fully engaging with what is happening now, the mind starts projecting worst-case scenarios into the future. You are physically in the moment, but mentally you are already living through problems that have not even occurred. This creates unnecessary stress and prevents you from experiencing life as it actually is. The present moment becomes overshadowed by imagined outcomes that may never happen. Fear also has a way of disguising itself as caution or practicality. It convinces people that they are simply being careful, when in reality they are avoiding discomfort. This avoidance might feel safe in the short term, but in the long term it creates regret. Opportunities are missed, conversations are left unsaid, and dreams are postponed, not because they were impossible, but because fear made them feel heavier than they truly were. Slowly, life becomes smaller without the person even realizing it. When fear becomes a constant companion, it begins to define identity. A person may start to see themselves as someone who doesn't take risks or is not ready yet. These labels feel protective, but they are limiting. They create invisible boundaries around potential. The longer these boundaries exist, the more normal they feel, and eventually they replace courage with hesitation. What could have been a life of exploration turns into a life of avoidance. The present moment is where life actually exists, But fear does its best work by pulling attention away from it. It shifts focus from what is happening to what could go wrong. In doing so, it removes the ability to fully participate in life. You are no longer experiencing the moment, you are surviving it mentally. This constant state of anticipation drains energy and reduces clarity, making even simple experiences feel heavier than they are. Overcoming fear is not about eliminating it completely. That is unrealistic. Fear will always appear in some form whenever growth is involved. The real shift happens when fear is no longer allowed to dominate decision making or steal awareness from the present. When you choose to act despite discomfort or stay present despite uncertainty, fear loses its control. Life then expands again, not because fear disappears, but because it is no longer in charge of how fully you live the moment you are in. One of the most important truths about life is that perfection is never the requirement for fulfillment. Many people delay truly living because they believe something essential is still missing. They think life will feel complete once everything is stable, once problems disappear, or once they reach a point where nothing feels uncertain anymore. But this expectation creates a trap because life never reaches a state of complete perfection. There is always something to improve, fix, or adjust. Waiting for perfection often means waiting forever. Living fully does not mean living without problems. It means refusing to let problems define the entire experience of your life. Difficulties will always exist in some form: financial pressure, emotional challenges, unexpected changes, or personal struggles. These are not signs that life is not working. They are simply part of what makes life real. The mistake is believing that these challenges disqualify you from enjoying the present moment. In reality, life continues alongside them, not after them. When people expect perfect conditions before they allow themselves to feel joy, they unknowingly place their happiness under constant delay. A person might say, "I will enjoy life when things calm down." But calm down rarely arrives in a permanent way. Life moves in cycles. Some moments are peaceful, others are chaotic. If enjoyment depends on only the peaceful phases, then most of life will be experienced in waiting rather than living. There is a different way to approach life that does not depend on ideal circumstances. It is the ability to engage with life as it is, not as it should be. This mindset does not ignore difficulty, but it refuses to let difficulty become the only lens through which everything is seen. Even in stressful times, there are still moments of connection, learning, growth, and meaning. Recognizing these moments does not remove hardship, but it prevents hardship from becoming the whole story. Living fully also means participating in your own life instead of watching it pass from a distance. Many people become observers of their own existence, constantly analyzing, worrying, or planning instead of experiencing. They are physically present but emotionally disconnected. To live fully is to reconnect with the experience of being alive in real time. Feeling, noticing, responding, and engaging without constantly postponing presence until later. When you stop waiting for perfect conditions, life becomes more immediate and more honest. You begin to realize that fulfillment is not something waiting at the end of struggle, but something that can exist within struggle itself. Joy does not require the absence of difficulty, it requires the presence of awareness. In this way, even imperfect days can still be deeply lived, fully felt, and meaningfully experienced. In the end, life does not ask you to have everything figured out before you begin to live it. It only asks you to show up for it, honestly, fully, and in the moment you are already in. The truth is, no perfect version of life is waiting ahead. What is waiting is your attention, your awareness, and your willingness to see value in what is already here. You will not always control what happens to you, but you will always have some control over how present you choose to be inside it. And that presence changes everything. It turns routine into experience, pressure into growth, and ordinary time into something meaningful. So instead of postponing your life for a better moment, let your life be something you participate in now, Not later, not someday, now, while it is unfolding, while it is imperfect, while it is real.